Hey guys, welcome back to Mishmas. So today's video, we're going to be talking about my absolute, hands down, favorite products in every category. My favorite foundation, concealer, etc., etc. I had done a best of 2020 video where I talked about my favorite releases of 2020. So those were things that were released in 2020 that I thought were the absolute best in each category. And in that video, I promised this video for you guys. So this is going to be a very long video, so I'm just going to jump right into it. Okay, my favorite primer, and this was in my best of 2020, is the Victoria Beckham Cell Rejuvenating Priming Moisturizer. I only have golden left. The regular one, the original one that she came out with, I've already used that up. So I've just been using the golden, which is what I have on my face now. And I'll do some cutaways of as many of the products that I'm mentioning today that I do have on my face. I'll do some cutaways of me applying it so you guys can see the products in action. So this primer from Victoria Beckham, I absolutely love either shade. The golden, which is a little bit deeper, which is what I have on my face, or the original. I love them both. I think they are wonderful. If you have dry skin, if you like a little bit of radiance to your base products, I would highly recommend these. It just has such a lovely radiance in the primer, like a little bit of shimmer, but it's really, really understated. I mean, so much so, I remember when I originally got her first one for the very first time, it was a new release. We were all trying it out. I couldn't even really tell if there was like a shimmer to it. And I quickly realized after using it 3, 4, 5 times that there was. You know, I could kind of see it on the nozzle here where like product was left over. I was like, oh, there is like a little golden shimmer to it. So I just fell in love with it. I love the texture of it. It's very lightweight, yet it's very moisturizing on the skin. And that little bit of radiance just makes it very special for me. So this is my all-time favorite primer. My all-time favorite foundation, I don't believe this has changed in a while, and I actually have not used this for you guys in a while because I'm always testing so many products out, but it is the foundation that I have on my skin today, and that is the Surratt Dewdrop Foundation. I have it in the shades 3 and 4. I do have 4 on my skin today. I can get away with both, basically. 4 is a little bit deeper than 3, and I decided to use 4 today because I had the golden primer down. I have gone on and on about how much I love this foundation in the past, but for any of you who may have missed it, it basically is like the foundation. If I could create like a dream foundation, this would be it. It has like a light medium coverage. It is buildable. It's long lasting. It has like a certain finish to it that is so special. It doesn't have like just straight up radiance like the way the primer does. Like it doesn't just have shimmer in there, but there are like almost like light reflecting bits in there that kind of create this filtered effect to your skin. And it, I don't know, it just kind of refracts light so that it just sort of fools the eye into making your skin look smoother without like additional coverage, without just sort of straight up sparkle or glittery bits or anything like that. It really smooths and perfects my skin without the coverage, which I love. I don't like a high coverage foundation. I always feel like it looks very, very mask-like and heavy and cakey. I don't like feeling makeup on my face, and this has been absolutely perfect because it is so lightweight in texture, it's so lightweight in coverage, and like I said, it really just gives you like this filtered effect to your skin. So I love this foundation. I continue to love this foundation ever since I purchased foundation. This has been my ultimate favorite. So that is the Surratt Dewdrop Foundation. Concealer. Now this was actually a very easy category for me to choose, and this probably should have belonged in my best of 2020, but I thought this came out at the end of 2019. In any case, it's the Dior Forever Skin Correct Concealer. You guys have been watching me use this concealer now ever since I got it like in January of this year, and I just love it. It is just like the best like all around concealer. It has a medium to high coverage, so it's a great concealer. It has a really, really creamy texture, so it blends in really nicely, really, really seamlessly. It wears really, really well. This is my favorite concealer, especially if I want to forego foundation, if I just want to skip that step, if I just don't feel like I need like a full face of makeup, I can just put this around my eyes, dab a little bit on my problem spots, my hyperpigmentation. It blends in perfectly. I have the shade 2N, and it just is like the perfect match to my skin. It just blends in so seamlessly, and it's just wonderful. It's a gigantic bottle. Like I said, I've been using this pretty much nonstop all year. and I can't seem to finish up this bottle. I mean, I can see the bottom at this point, but I feel like every time I take out the doe foot applicator, there's plenty of product on there. So this is like the never-ending bottomless pit concealer as well. And despite me having this for almost a year, the consistency and the formula of this concealer has stayed completely consistent. It hasn't dried out, it hasn't clumped up, like it hasn't started to act weird at all. So it's just wonderful. It performs beautifully. It's a great formula. I love it. Absolutely love it. I did just want to mention another concealer because this one is a concealer that I have been meaning to try. It is definitely not new to 2020. It has been around for a while, and I finally got a chance to try it this year, and it is amazing. It is definitely different from the Dior. It's definitely not like an all-around product. It is not something I could put all over my face. It has a much higher coverage. The consistency of it is a little bit thicker. It's not cakey, but it's a little bit thicker. It is the eye concealer with botanical extracts from... It is the Sicily eye concealer with botanical extracts. So I have the shade number 1. And the reason why I wanted to mention this one is because it is quite different from the Dior. The Dior is a concealer, but like I said, I feel very comfortable kind of, you know, spot concealing all over my face and using it in lieu of foundation. This is just a straight up concealer, and it even has, at least for this shade number 1, it even has a little bit of color correction going on because there's like a peach tinge to it. And I hope you guys can see the shade there. Yeah, it has like a pretty strong peach tinge there. So for my like sallowness that I have underneath my eyes, it's really, really great. I also love the tip of this concealer. When you actually apply it underneath your eyes, I suffer from puffiness. So the cooling tip is also really, really amazing. So when I'm feeling like I need some like concealing, like hardcore concealing, I've been reaching for this, and it's really been wonderful. So I had to mention it because it is quite different from this Dior one. All right, powders. So neither of these are going to be a surprise. So my favorite loose powder, and I think this is many years running now, is the Kogan Do Natural Lighting Powder. I just love it. It does what powder needs to do for me. It takes down any sort of excessive shine. It sets makeup down beautifully, but it never ever looks powdery. It never looks cakey, and there is just the slightest bit of like a satin kind of finish to it, where it's not like my skin ever looks shiny after I put it on, but it never ever looks dry. It never looks dull. It never looks matte. Like, it definitely takes down shine, but there's like a little bit like a demi satin kind of finish to this powder that is just so beautiful. It is very, very natural and skin-like, which is what I love. So that is my favorite loose setting powder. And then for pressed powder, this is my favorite pressed powder. I had to choose basically between this one and the Chantecaille. I mentioned both in my best of 2020. And because this one is just of a kind of a regular kind of pressed powder formula, I chose this one because I do find the Chantecaille, it's a baked formula and it's a gorgeous powder. I mean, it does the most amazing job blurring. But for me, I just prefer this. I just find it easier to use. This one has a little bit more of like a satin kind of finish to it. And so, yeah, I just love kind of setting my entire face with it. It just does such a good job kind of like filtering my skin. This Too Natural is the one that I use, you know, as powder, and I love it. All right, my favorite contour powder is from the Dior Backstage Contour Palette, and I use this Contour Light shade. It really is just the perfect contour shade for me. It is neutral. It has like a slightly cool tone to it, but it's not too gray. I find those to just be like a little too much, like a little bit too stage makeup-y. I think for real life, you definitely want something that's, you know, neutral and cool, but you don't, for me personally, of course, I don't want something that is like too gray because it's so stark and it's just so dramatic that I feel like I just can't pull it off. So I really love this one. The shade is just right for me in terms of contour, and this powder is so creamy and silky. It's just really easy to use. And especially when it comes to contour, you know, you really don't want to mess up. You really don't want to put down too much. You don't want to have a contour that isn't you know, blend it out. And this powder is just so easy to work with, easy to blend out. You're never really in danger of putting too much down. It's not like overly pigmented where you have to be too careful. So it's just a really great powder formula, and I love the shade of this. So that's the Dior Backstage Contour Palette. And in terms of bronzer, this, I believe this is the same bronzer I picked from 2019, but this is the Tom Ford Glow Bronzer in number 2 Terra. I have so many bronzers that I love. Like, I love the Kosas Sun Show Bronzer, but you know, when I go through and create this list, I really look like, okay, if I just had to grab one thing and go and leave everything else behind, what would it be? And it was this bronzer again. I love the formula. It's a very creamy kind of powder. I love this shade Terra. It is more of a neutral bronzer, so it's not too orange based. It doesn't end up too peachy, so I feel like I can wear this shade like all year round, not a problem. And I can dust this just sort of lightly all over my face, which is what I did today. And it just looks so natural. It brings out like a nice color to my skin tone. I find it really, really beautiful to blend out. It's such a creamy formula that when I apply it to the skin, it almost looks like airbrushed. It almost looks like a cream product, and I love it. So again, this one is my all-time favorite bronzer, the Tom Ford Glow Bronzer in Terra. All right, moving on to blushes. You guys know how difficult this category is for me. I love blush. There are so many different blush shades that I like. It really depends on what else I'm wearing. It depends on what mood I'm in, blah, blah, blah. And there are so many good blushes out on the market. But again, I sat there and I looked at my blush drawer and I said, if I just had to grab one, what would it be? And I picked Jersey from Chanel. I just love it. I love this shade. Last year I picked Golden Sun, which I would pick again, and I may as well put this on my list as well, but this is limited edition and you can't get this anymore. Jersey is part of their line, and Jersey, compared to Golden Sun, is just a little bit more peachy. Jersey is just such a wonderful color. It's pretty neutral, has just a little bit of peachiness to it. And again, it is what I have on my face today, but there's something about Chanel blushes that I really love. I mean, really, really love. I definitely strayed a little bit this year. I fell in love with some Dior blushes, as you guys know, 219, love that blush. But Chanel is just such a good standby for me. Like, it never ever disappoints. Every single shade I've gotten from the Chanel blush line, I have loved. And I can't really say that about many blush lines. There's plenty of blushes out there that don't work for my skin, don't work for my skin tone, don't do anything for my complexion. But yeah, just Chanel blushes in general. And I do really love the Jersey, and I grabbed for it quite a bit this last year. So I'm gonna have to say that Chanel blushes are still my like all-time favorite. In terms of cream blush, because I have so many different kinds of blush, I had to mention the Kjaer Weis cream blush. This happens to be in the shade Sun Touched. I have several shades from her, but these cream blushes are amazing. They perform so well. They just blend out easily, beautifully, under powder, over powder. All the shades that I have are just absolutely gorgeous. And Kjaer Weis is a 100% organic makeup line. So just to add to all of the amazingness that's going on here, it is 100% organic. So I had to mention her cream blushes because they are outstanding. Okay, highlight. Gosh, this this was really hard too. This was like blush. I opened up my highlight drawer and I was like, oh, come on, how can I choose? But I did. This one, I think I've mentioned as my favorite highlight, but not in my 2019 favorite. Anyway, it's the Burberry highlight. So this is their Fresh Glow highlighter. It's their illuminating powder. And the one I'm holding up is in shade Rose Gold number 4. I have 2 shades. I have this one and the Nude Gold, but this Rose Gold definitely suits my skin tone and my taste the best. And so I have that on my cheeks today. It takes so little of this baked gelée powder to give you an intense amount of shine. It's so bright, yet it's so smooth and glossy. It's a really special formula. I love it. You can buff it out even more and it just makes it more and more glossy looking. Oh my, it's incredible. I highly recommend these. I feel like these are a little bit hard to find. I'll link it down below, of course, in my description box, but I feel like this was everywhere. And now it's only like really in select retailers. So I think Burberry definitely is going through like a change or makeover of their makeup line, but they better not get rid of this highlighter. I'll be upset. And in terms of liquid cream highlight, definitely the By Terry Brightening CC Serum. So there's a bunch of different shades. I use this Sunny Flash shade, which is almost like a bronzer on me. And I will use this all over my face. You guys have seen me do that. Like as a base product. It has glow to it for sure. But once you get it all over your face, it really just gives you like this nice radiance. It's not overkill. I would not put any other liquid highlight like all over my face. But there's something about this particular formula where it just works because it definitely is highlighty. I mean, you can see it in the bottle here, very, very highlighty. But yeah, once you get it all over the face, it really is just very blurring. It's very perfecting. I really, really love it. And I don't use this as like, spot highlight, because this shade is a little bit too deep for me. But By Terry does have lighter shades and I will use those for, spot highlighting. So I really, really love this liquid cream highlight. And this does have like a rose fragrance to it. So if you are sensitive to that, it may not be your thing, but I just wanted to mention that. Okay, moving on to eyebrows. Wow, this is gonna be such a surprise, guys. Oh my God, can you believe it? I'm gonna talk about the Tom Ford Fiber Brow Gel. Whatever, I've talked about this for years. It's what I have in my brows. I love it. I use espresso or granite. Granite's just a little bit cooler toned. Espresso's just a little bit warmer, blah, blah, blah. So let's move on from eyebrows. Eyeshadow. This was very difficult. So what I ended up doing was taking out formulas that I love, that I absolutely love. So when it comes to matte shadows, I took a stand. I took a stand, guys, because I like a lot of matte shadows. I do. There are a lot of matte formulas that I like, but if I had to choose one formula for matte shadows, it would be Viseart. And of course I pulled out the Neutral Mattes palette. I just love the Viseart matte formula. I find them easy to use, easy to blend, and they're just a regular straight up pressed powder. They're not too creamy, they're not too powdery. Like, I just find them very easy to use, very straightforward, and very, very beginner friendly. They are highly, highly pigmented, but they're not hard to use. Generally, if I use like hyper pigmented shadows, I find them very difficult to use. They're hard to use, they're hard to blend out, and you are very prone to mistakes. But as pigmented as the Viseart shadows are, they're just really easy to use. I just love them. I would recommend these to anyone, absolutely anyone. Any skill level, any skin tone, any skin type. I just love the Viseart shadows. So Viseart is one of my favorite shadows, and I picked them for my favorite matte formula. In terms of like a satiny shimmer, and that's what I have on my eyes today, I had to go with, and it was close. It was close. You could probably guess what is my runner up for this. But I had to pick the Chantecaille Les Chrome Luxe Eye Duos. So the duo that I have on my eyes today is Tibet, which is like what all my dreams are made out of. A light metallic taupe and a deeper metallic taupe. They're just awesome. I have the lighter one all over and I put a little bit of the deep on the outer corner. And that's it. I feel like these are the easiest duos to work with. They just look gorgeous. There's, I think, 5 or 6 different duos. Wow, I'm losing my mind. 5, I think. And they're all beautiful, but Tibet just really, really speaks to me, and it's the one I choose constantly. The other kind of satiny, shimmery eyeshadow formula that I really love, but these are definitely more of like a baked gelée formula. These are the Tom Ford Wet Dry shadows. So I pretty much enjoy any of the Tom Ford quads that have the wet dry formula. I love them all. There was no way I could pick one over the other. I just happened to be holding up Double Indemnity. But this wet dry formula is, I mean, it's breathtaking. I think they're so beautiful. I think they're great dry. Admittedly, I very, very rarely actually wet them, but you can use them wet if you want them to be a lot more like opaque and have like, you know, kind of like a deeper tone to them. But if you use them dry, they're just like really sparkly and beautiful and shimmery without like too many micro glitters. I mean, some of the shades have micro glitters in there, like this dark black shade. But other than that, they're just gorgeous, and they're just such a joy to work with. I mean, they're just so beautiful. And then lastly, of course, I had to mention the Pat McGrath special shades because they really are just very, very special. These are also baked shadows, and these are the 4 shadows that you'll find off to the right of her Mothership palettes, except for Decadence 4. Those are all kind of like pressed metallics, but all of her other Mothership palettes have 4 shades on the right that have this sort of baked formula that are really quite special. And she came out with these quads, not the most recent ones. The most recent ones have like a pressed formula, but the quads that came out before, these are the Blitz Astral Quads, I think. I can't remember the name anymore. The Blitz Astral Quads. Anyway, these were 4 of the special shades, and I love them. They are really just so much fun. I don't know if I would say these are beginner friendly necessarily, because there is quite a bit of fallout if you're not careful. They're not hard to blend or anything. Anyway, I just feel like maybe for just straight up beginners, these may not be, you know, the shadows for you, but hey, if you're adventurous and you like to play, whatever, doesn't matter. But I just had to mention this formula because they really are just very, very special and very unique. And then my favorite cream eyeshadow is from Westman Atelier. So I think last year I talked about the Victoria Beckham lid lusters in mink. I still love it. I really do. I love those lid lusters. I think they're so beautiful. And in fact, I may as well mention those because they are quite different from these Westman Atelier iPods. But these to me are just a little bit more versatile and a little bit more everyday and a little bit easier to use. So the lid lusters have they're glittery. So you have to kind of be careful with them. You have to pat them in. And then, you know, you can smear them out, and I think they just look absolutely gorgeous on the lids. I think they're totally worth the effort. But if I just want to throw eyeshadow on, you guys know how much I've been loving these iPods from Westman Atelier, especially the Le Jour, the daytime ones. I also have the Les Nuits, the evening one, which is gorgeous as well. But when it comes to this one shade, Tabak, I just love it. It's such an easy formula to work with. I can use a brush, I can use my finger, I just smear it all over my lid, and it's perfect. It's beautiful. It's a perfect one and done shadow. So I had to mention the iPods from Westman Atelier. So those are my favorite shadows. I know I was speaking in very broad strokes, but that was the only way I could think about them. All right, and eyeliners. So I definitely mentioned the Wayne Goss Essential Eye Kohl Pencils as my favorite for my best of 2020 because that's when these came out, right? Yeah, that's when these came out. Wow. 2020, yeah, total time warp. I'm gonna name these as my all-time favorite. I have been reaching for these all year. I just find them really easy to use, and they never ever smudge and they never fade. I generally tightline with them. Sometimes I'll use them in my waterline, and they're just wonderful. I love them. I love the black, the brown, the precious opal, which is like a metallic brown, the 2 new shades that Wayne came out with, the like very deep sapphire, the deep amethyst. They're all gorgeous, and they all just work beautifully. I just really, really love them. They're just like straightforward eyeliners. So that is my all-time favorite eyeliner. And I did want to mention one other eyeliner only because it's just very, very different, but is the Brightening Eye Kajal from Chantecaille. It's in the shade Nude. I think there's only one shade. And I love the shade of this. I use it in my waterline, and I've tried a lot of like nude colored eyeliners to use in my waterline to kind of brighten up my eyes. And I find they're either too white or they're too peachy. And so they end up being very, very obvious, and I don't necessarily think they brighten up my eyes necessarily. They just look like I lined like my eyes with white or peach eyeliner. This is sort of right in the middle. It's like the perfect shade. And so when I put it on, it really does that brightening effect. It's not an obvious eyeliner, and the formula is wonderful. It glides right on, it stays put, really just awesome. So the Chantecaille Brightening Eye Kajal, definite best of best. All right, next up we have mascara. And I'm not a mascara connoisseur. You've heard me say that before. I really didn't wear mascara up until maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and probably when I started my channels, when I started playing around with and testing mascara. So I have very short, sparse, straight eyelashes. I mean, they are like the eyelash nightmare. So because of that, you would think I would want like volumizing and lengthening or whatever, but those mascaras, they just don't really work for my eyes. I mean, some do, and I've tried a lot of mascaras this year, like a lot. I felt like there was a new mascara release every day for like a month over the summertime at some point. You know, if they're too volumizing, I feel like they just clump all my lashes together. And so I need a mascara that is kind of just like an all-around mascara, one that coats each lash, one that kind of separates them, gives them volume, but isn't too like thick and clumpy, you know, lengthening, but not too much, keeps my curl. You know, I just need like the all-around kind of mascara. And I have really been enjoying the Surratt Noir Lash Tint. It has this very different wand, different from what we see these days. It is like a screw, like threaded top. It doesn't have any hairs or bristles. And I just find it much easier to use. I find that when I use big bristles, again, because I have such stubby, sparse lashes, if I use like really big bristles, they just end up making a mess, or there's the danger of me making a mess. And I really don't have that issue with this kind of wand. And the formula is really great in this mascara. It does what I was saying, you know, it coats each lash, so it gives me volume without it being clumpy. It keeps the curl to my lashes, which is really, really hard to do. It's very, very difficult to find a mascara that does that. It lengthens my lashes, but not too much. It's just great. It's like a great lash enhancement kind of mascara. And I love it. So this is my favorite mascara. All right. Wow, we're down to lips. And I feel like I've been talking forever. Yes, I have. Okay, lips. Let's get lip liner out of the way because I've definitely mentioned this before, but this is the Perfect Lip Liner from Sicily. And I have the nude color on today. And yeah, I just love this lip liner, mainly because it feels so creamy, so creamy. It feels so creamy that you don't think it's gonna last, but it does. It's a very, very long lasting lip liner, but it's totally creamy. I don't know how they do it. There's some magic over at the Sicily lab because they always come out with such like surprisingly amazing products. Lip liner. Like lip liner definitely is, for me, one of the most boring things ever. Lip liner, eyebrow stuff, eyeliner, there really isn't much to say, but when it comes to this lip liner, it's just so good because yeah, it's just so smooth and soft and it glides right on. The shades are beautiful, and when it sets down, it doesn't feel dry at all. And I generally have that problem with lip liners, that when they dry down, I like kind of feel it, like the outer rim of my lip starts to feel a little bit dry. Not with this one. This one just, it maintains the creaminess, but it's long lasting. Again, I don't know how they do it, but it's amazing. Okay, so for lips, I kind of did the same thing that I did with the eyeshadows because there's so much to talk about. It's so difficult to pick out like absolute one lip product that you love because they're so different. There's such a range. Okay, so let's start with what is actually on my lips. And the longer this lipstick is on, the more I'm reminded as to why I love it and why I had to mention it and why I have mentioned this before in the past. But these are the Bond No. 9 lipsticks, and I have Hudson Yards on my lips. I've talked about Gramercy Park a lot in the past. That's the color that I probably still to this day reach for the most, but they have a whole range of nudes, all of which are gorgeous. So this Hudson Yards is a little bit paler than the Gramercy Park, but I love how cool-ish or neutral toned these nudes are. They're gorgeous. But anyway, those are the colors. What I want to talk about is the formula. The formula of these lipsticks, they're incredible. They go on almost in a balmy kind of way. They almost feel really thick, like they're just gonna be sitting on your lips all day. But the amazing thing is within, I don't know, 5-10 minutes, it doesn't feel like you have any lipstick on at all. They just, I don't know if they sink in, I don't know if they melt, I don't know what the deal is, but they go on so thick and then they disappear. It's magic. It is pure magic. And whenever I wear these lipsticks, I always have to check, like, did I put lipstick on today? Because it really feels like nothing. It feels like nothing on my lips. It's really cool. And I've never come across a lipstick like this that's felt like this before. So I had to mention the Bond No. 9 and any of the nude colors I love. I have one of their reds, also really gorgeous, but I love a nude lipstick. So Hudson Yards, Gramercy Park, they're all gorgeous. And Hudson Yards is what I have on. And then another formula I have to mention is the Sicily Lafito Rouge. So again, not new for this year. Same with the Bond number 9, not new for this year, but there's something about the formula of these lipsticks. Now they are a matte. I wouldn't say they're like a dry, flat, powdery kind of matte lipstick. I've definitely have used matter lipsticks than this, but they don't really have much of a shine to them. I'll say that. But they feel incredible. They feel like you're just putting a cream lipstick on. So for people who maybe love the matte look, but you just can't stand that matte feeling, this is maybe the answer to all your prayers, because they just feel so great on the lips and the colors are gorgeous. They just came out with 4 new colors. I'm holding one of them. This is number 15, Beige Manhattan. And this is probably my new favorite color from their line. But this formula, again, another crazy, crazy, amazing formula, like their lip liner. It just goes on so creamy, like you're wearing a satin lipstick, but when you look in the mirror, you're like, oh, it's kind of like a matte lipstick. It's just great. So had to mention that. Also wanted to mention some sheer lipsticks. The Chantecaille Lip Veil. If I had to choose one lipstick formula out of all of these to kind of pick and spend the rest of my days with, it would probably be the Chantecaille Lip Veil. I just want to mention some other ones because this really is just so moisturizing. The pigmentation is a little bit lighter than something like, you know, the Sicily Lafito Rouge, but the pigmentation is there. You know, it's more than what you think you would have in such a moisturizing, almost like a lip balm kind of formula. And one of those rare lip products that at the end of the day, your lips feel better after having this on all day. It's almost like a lip mask. So had to mention the lip veil. And in terms of like a tinted, sheer kind of like lip balmy kind of product, I also wanted to mention the Chanel Rouge Coco Flash. These are like a little bit more oily than the lip veils. The lip veils really it's a little bit more dense. These are a little bit lighter in texture and a little bit more oily. You can probably see too that it's a little bit more shiny. This is the color Flushed, which I think I may have mentioned in my best of 2020 because this color came out in 2020. The Rouge Coco Flashes have been around for a while, even though they were reformulated. But anyway, I wanted to mention this separately from the lip veil, even though they both feel so great on the lips because they are quite different. The Rouge Coco Flashes are, yeah, they're just definitely like a little bit lighter on the lips. So wanted to mention that. And actually, let me mention this. So this is the Gucci satin lipstick in the Painted Veil. And I think I pulled this out because I was just thinking like that Gucci lipstick color range is incredible, especially if you're a nude lover. I mean, they have a lot of reds and deeper shades, but if you are a nude lover, they have so many, it's almost difficult to choose because they're so close together because they have so many. And as a nude lipstick lover, I just, yes, like I just have to give them props. I have to give Gucci props for their lipstick shade range. So I guess that's why I'm mentioning them. But this is the Painted Veil. Look at how beautiful that nude is. Let me just swatch it right here. Isn't that so pretty? It's nude, but there's like a teensy bit of pink, a teensy bit of peach. It may not look it, but it really is an interesting nude. Like if you start comparing this nude to other ones in your collection, like I did, it's gonna be like, oh, it's a little bit cooler than this one. Oh, it's a little bit warmer than that one. It really just kind of falls into its own lane. It's so interesting. So that's the Painted Veil from Gucci. And then I really wanted to mention these. Again, not new at all. It's just new to me. But these are the Serge Lutens lipsticks. And this is in shade number 12. And I really, really love a corpse-like, cool-toned lipstick. And sometimes not so easy to find. But this one is just perfect. It is that gray-based mauvey shade, and I really love it. I really, really love it. So this is number 12. And these lipsticks from Serge Lutens they're almost like these lip veils. They have a very balmy texture. They're very moisturizing, very, very comfortable on the lips. I just don't think they're quite as nourishing as the lip veils. They're just really comfortable. So the Serge Lutens lipsticks in general, really lovely, but I love this number 12 shade. It's just So good. So, so good. And last but certainly not least, finishing powder. This is not new. I'm sure I mentioned this probably in the last few years of my favorites, but this is the Guerlain Meteorites. I just love the way this makes your skin look after you buff it in. This is definitely not a powder I like just brushing on because I feel like it kind of sits on top of your skin and there are like little micro glitters in there. But when you buff it in and you buff it in real good, like with Sonia G's Smooth Buffer or with her Face One brush, and you really work it in, there is something about the Meteorites. It really starts to finish off your makeup. And I did not put any on today, so I'm going to demonstrate it for you. I really like using the Sonia G Face One brush with it, and I have to say, before I got this brush, I didn't really like this powder. So for me, it's kind of this combination. I know this brush is hard to get. The Smooth Buffer, same thing. You can definitely use it. It's just smaller than the Face One, and I think this is still in stock. And so if you're gonna put this all over your face, this is just gonna take a little bit more time than the Face One, but you're gonna get the same effect. So I'm gonna go in with my Face One, and I like to break up the Meteorites. That's a trick I learned from Tara Babies. There's always a bit of the powder on the lid, and I just stamp my Face One in there. And where I personally like to apply the most finishing powder is right here. It's like that part of my face, kind of like below my bronzer. I have the most, I don't know, hyperpigmentation and texture. Yeah, and for some reason, this part of my skin, it's not problematic because it's actually very consistent in what it is, but it's just the most kind of uneven. So anyway, I just like to kind of focus my finishing powder there. So I'll stamp it on and then I'll buff it in. I'm trying to get the light so you can see what it looks like. I'm using the shade Medium, by the way. And then of course, if you feel like you want to blend out your bronzer, your contour, your blush, your highlight, anything like that, you can just bring it up and it'll buff all of that out. But I'll do it on this side too. So yeah, really focus on this part and then I'll bring it up. I just love how smooth and like this subtle kind of like satin finish that it gives my skin. I just think it looks incredible, absolutely incredible. So still my favorite finishing powder. Woo, all right. Well, those are my all-time favorite makeup products. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please let me know what some of your all-time favorites are down below in the comment section. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe down below if you haven't already, and I will see you in tomorrow's Mishmas video.